Yeah, moving into a game that's the next one on the schedule. It happens to be the bragging rights game, and first year was, I guess, eye-opening in the fact that I'm a huge fan of rivalries and been a part of quite a few of them, and this one lived up to all the hype, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, the game was passionate. It was hard played, and now we get ready for round two, and you get a Missouri team that's coming off a great win, and you know, is playing awfully well, and we'll have to play well to you know, to beat them. So it should be everything that good rivalry games are about.
Brad, there's obviously a few extra storylines around this game. How do you frame the game for your team? How do you talk about the game with them?
Next game on the schedule. It's 40 minutes or however long it has to be at that time, and they pose certain obstacles, and you know, want them to enjoy being a part of this game and in St. Louis, and you know, I frame it more about the rivalry and the history and the long history of the game, and that they're a part of it rather than I do anything else. And then we've approached it, their personnel, just like we have in every other game.
And with their, sorry, one more. With their game against Xavier 2 nights ago, how does that inform your prep, given that you also played Xavier, the common opponent thing?
I mean, it was, well, I'll say this. I think the one thing that they were in a situation they'd been off a while. So you're looking for changes and things that they have done differently. You know, over their time of being able to practice. And then I didn't pay much attention to Xavier in that game. So, you know, it was more an X and O than it was a comparison of, I don't really get into comparisons because the game's very mental, and every night teams are different. So you can look at, if you get into comparative scores and that kind of stuff, you'll drive yourself nuts.
How have you kind of try to prepare the freshmen for the environment they're about to face on Saturday?
Yeah, it's just, you know, there's no preparing when you're in Ubben, you know, every single day, and you know, you tell them it's going to be loud. You tell them you've got to communicate. We you know, we do some different things in terms of making guys echo calls and understand that there's a different. There's a little different energy about it because it's a rivalry, and that's the beauty of the game.
Brad, how much has Jeremiah Tillman improved since last year?
He's better. I mean, I think the greatest thing about is the old analogy. The best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores, and I think they're making a concentrated effort to get him the ball. I thought he was awfully good last year. I think he's a pro, and. You know, when he's not in foul trouble, which he was not in the Xavier game, I think you see how impactful that young guy can be, and he's you know, he's a ton on the block, that's for sure.
Brad, you've coached in a lot of different, you know, arenas and situations. Have you ever seen a rivalry much like this? And then is there also any luster about having 3 guys from Illinois on their roster?
Well, this rivalry is different because most of them happen in league play, and you have very much home and away. You know, you got your KU, K-State, or you've got you know, things that have been a part of, and you've got a home court. And this is very unique in that it's split 50-50, and the thing that makes this is the fans, and you've got 2 historic, tremendously successful basketball programs that meet in one city, and that's the one thing that makes this fun. You know, as to the other part of that, there are another uniforms, and you know what What I can control is the guys in my uniforms, and we talk about Mark or Jeremiah or whoever it is, no matter who we play as an opponent. So it's really that simple. We're not out doing anything magical. We're just out preparing like it's the next game on the schedule, which it is.
Brad, with Jonte out, you've mentioned Jeremiah has been a guy they've kind of built their offense around, but with that comes a little bit of a slower tempo, a slower pace. How important is it for you guys to try to speed them up and kind of play your game and not slow down to theirs?
Well, I think you can look into numbers, and I think they're 329th in pace or tempo, but don't fall asleep by that, because pace can be rather a deceiving statistic. The one thing that they do a great job of is pushing early in offense under 7 seconds and shooting threes, and both Mark, Geist, Pickett, all those guys do a very good job. Watson, all those guys do a very good job of making shots. The other Smith, they shoot it early, and they shoot 32, 33% of their shots are threes, and they come early. So you got to be careful with that, and yet once they do settle into the half court, there's no doubt that they've got a heavy emphasis trying to get the ball to Tillman.
Brad, I don't know if it's pertinent from Missouri, but you had some difficulty the other night against a 2-3 zone. And Andres Felice, I think, was at the top of the point of that possession. Is that something that concerned you, that you're working on?
No, I think we're actually pretty good. I think our numbers are 1.2, 1.3 points per possession against a zone, which I'll take every night. And then our rebounding numbers are much better against a zone. So if anybody wants to play a zone, I'm a willing participant in that one. But I think it was more abnormal than anything. And I think Dre had one of those unfortunate nights where the ball was slick in his hand and he just fumbled it. But he doesn't do that very often.
Coach, how much has Mark improved since last year? What type of challenge is it going to be to play against a guy like that?
Yeah, Mark's a good player. Again, the best. He's a veteran. He's a veteran now, and he's been able to mature, and Mark's always been a terrific shooter, and that's very evident in his numbers this year. And he's a guy that and when left open, he doesn't miss. That ball's going in the basket, and Mark's a good player. And he's an aggressive driver. He's a good free throw shooter, and he's got the ability to score at all three levels. And he's playing like a veteran.
I mean, maybe given the extra time and just to practice in the last few weeks, what's one thing maybe you've worked on the most, or maybe seen the most improvement in, just being able to focus a little more on that?
We've spent a tremendous amount of time on rebounding, Scott. We've spent a tremendous amount of time, just in press breakers. We've spent a good amount of time, with some secondary defense things that we haven't worked on a lot to this point. And we've primarily been man-to-man, and we've been able to work on some secondary defenses and spend a good amount of time on some of those things that we can need at different times.
How is Anthony coming along with his recovery process?
It's nothing changed, nothing new. He's still out, and we wait till his next doctor's appointment in 10 days, 2 weeks, whenever that is, and I guess I've lost track now, and then we'll reevaluate that. But he's working his tail off. He's lost a bunch of weight. I think Fletch said he's lost 16 pounds now, and so he's working his way back that way quite nicely.
You do like to play fast. What goes in for you guys to play fast? Is it the forcing turnovers and getting out? Like, how do you guys kind of balance if you're playing?
Yeah, it's two-sided, and I think that's one of the reasons that to go back to the question Scott asked, it's one of the reasons we've worked so hard on rebounding. We've got to be a better defensive rebounding team. We've got to quit fouling, and that's the one thing that takes away or negates running. And you look at our scoring under 7 seconds, and we haven't had a game this year. We've been under 20. Maybe I actually won. And but we've had games up over 40 in 7 seconds. But you look at those and they coincide with rebounding. They coincide with us not fouling as much. And then you get your 4 or 5 steals or 6 steals, whatever it is, and you convert those. So it's a combination of everything. And, we know we've had to work on rebounding the basketball. We know we've got to work on committing less fouls. And last game out, we did that.
With your freshmen, maybe even just all the new guys, having this extra practice time, have you seen a change in them where maybe they're just handling things different or better because they just are getting more comfortable because they've got the practice time instead of just all game and game prep?
Yeah, in some ways. I think the one thing that's really hard, Scott, is we'll have more of a judge on that now that finals are over. And the finals week is, people don't understand, finals week is hard. And it's we didn't practice yesterday because it was almost everybody on the team had finals, some had 2. That is a mental drain and a mental grind. So I don't think you see the maybe the vibrant energy that we'll see once we eliminate that side of it, the academic side, and now we get in Christmas break, and man, you can really pull kids aside and start watching a lot of film and seeing that. But we are doing things better, and it's just a matter of now we can really lock in and hone in over the break.
Earlier today, we asked Kipper what he was doing to try to help these freshmen kind of know what to expect going in, and he said you were taking care of that. What have you done to kind of ramp things up to get these guys ready?
Well, I think anytime you play in those environments, one, there's a calmness and a sense of peace that you have to have, because you're naturally going to be there's an adrenaline rush, and secondly, you've got to be at your highest levels in terms of communication. That's when your huddles become important. That's when your leadership on the court is very important, because it does get loud. And this is a game that that's a loud building, and when you got a packed house, it becomes challenging, and you've got to be able to echo calls and do those things. And those are the little things that become a part of it. The rest of it should become fun. You should relish the opportunity to play in these type games.
Brad, Adonis De La Rosa has kind of fallen out of the rotation a little bit. What do you want from him moving forward?
Well, I think a lot of it's been matchups, not just necessarily anything that he's done. Today in practice, he was a monster. Today he was terrific. Probably the best practice he's had in weeks. And I don't think it's that he's fallen out of favor. I think that it's more about matchups and who he can guard. Smaller matchups become a little more difficult for him, and East Tennessee was a challenge at because they did play small, and then UNLV had great runners. So I think that was something that we kind of look at as we go in. But he's been very good in practice as of late. Maybe it depends. Jeremiah gets. They like to lock Jeremiah in on the blocks, and yet they do some ball screening with him and put him out there and roll him to the rim and move him around quite a bit, and we'll see how that how that plays out and see what their chess match is.
We've seen him stay after a little bit and work with Samba before in the past. Even though Adonis isn't playing, what's been his role in helping Samba along, and how big of a factor has that been?
Oh, it's been a big part, and I think it speaks to how good a teammate he is, and how bought in he is. He's a guy who's been through it. He's seen a lot of different players. He's seen a lot of different styles and schemes, and he can help him. And the biggest challenge with Samba has just simply been getting up to speed with all of us and our stuff, and his natural athleticism and his length allow him to do things instinctively, and yet he's a guy that has some growth, and no doubt he's growing every day.
You were without Io and Allen for the last game. How do you expect them to respond Saturday?
In a very good way. Both those guys were. It's a situation that I didn't hide. I mean, they were late. And they Both those young men said something publicly. I didn't ask them to do that, but I think that speaks to what kind of teammates they are and how good of kids they are. And they felt like they let their team down. And it's with me, it's the light switch. You just flip it, and we move on and get back to it. And Iowa's had a great week of practice, and as has Allen, and we'll expect positive things from them.
When the results maybe weren't there earlier in the season, you mentioned, players mentioned, still a confident locker room. Does getting a couple wins in a row, does that just boost that a little bit? Have you seen maybe even a little extra?
Yeah, I think there's nothing bad that ever happens from a post-game locker room that's happy. And we've played better. That's the thing that's we didn't finish the game against UNLV maybe the way we wanted to, and that's on me. And that's why we've spent a lot of time working on that. And yet, East Tennessee is a good basketball team, and we handled them and made less errors, less mistakes, ran offense better, shared the basketball, and all those things that I want to see out of a team, we've been able to improve on. So, I think we're a more confident team. I think it feels good to have a couple wins, and yet there's still a part of us that knows, we've probably seen the best, and are close to it. And Gonzaga and some of those teams. Iowa State's going to be a team that's going to play for a championship in the Big 12, and they're very, very good. And you see a team in Notre Dame on the road. You see a Georgetown team that's 10-2 or whatever they are. We've seen good teams. So, I think there's confidence. We've seen everything.
Would you like to talk about how Tevian has progressed within the system during his time off?
Yeah, he's worked his tail off. And it's given him a great opportunity to spend some quality time with Fletch. It's been, sometimes that you put him on the scout team in practice, and he's a handful now. He's a tough guard, and he's been very good at it. He's been very positive.
Io and Trent are both guys who kind of like to rise to the moment. Last year in this game, we saw Trent do that. Do you expect maybe the same of Io in terms of that point production when been contributed elsewhere?
I don't know how to answer that. I didn't expect that from Trent last year going into the game. I think guys had those abilities in those moments, and Io's very capable. There's no doubt, and as we know, Trent is as well. But I think it's Trent's scenario was just happened, and it was in that game, and Io's had some of those moments and will continue to have some of those moments. But yeah, they are both big game players. There's no doubt about that.
There's been a lot of games, not always, but a lot of games in this series that have been very close. Is there a psychology to this kind of game that feeds the cliche of rankings don't matter, that these are tight ball games a lot?
Yeah, I think there's any rivalry, and it's. I wish maybe I had read the chapter in the book that's out there. I don't know if there is, but why that is. But they are. Maybe you get extra motivated, or maybe you feel an extra level of adrenaline. I don't know what that is, but they are. Not just in this history, but you look at any, whether it was Bedlam where I was a part of, and you see great things happen in those moments because young people get at an all-time high with their adrenaline, and things happen, and crazy things happen, and a lot of times it's close games, and you talk back to you sit and talk to Lauren, who's probably seen them all. You can probably tell you some of the greatest moments are happen in those games, but there's just something about rivalries that are very, very special that way.
And have you chosen your attire for Saturday night?
I haven't thought about it yet. I've been out recruiting, so I haven't had enough time to spend time thinking about my wardrobe.
Brad, I swear to God, that was my question. Not just because you brought that up, but the Sun Times comes out with that. How do you evaluate how you guys are recruiting Chicago? How do you think your staff has done?
I don't. What article? I don't. I mean, if I spend time really dwelling on that, then I'm not doing my job. I know I've got an unbelievable staff, and we work really, really hard, and we're going to continue to do that.
Is this just one of those games where you can't really prepare someone that hasn't played in it? You just have to kind of throw them out in the fire and let them just get their own feel for the
Probably.
game, kind of.
Probably. You know, there's, again, and I'm not, this is the next game on the schedule. This is 40 minutes. And, you know, it's we're going to go play hard. Missouri's going to play hard. And, you know, if special moments happen, they happen. But you have fun in them, you enjoy them, and yeah, I mean, you just go, let's go play.